design. We were talking about doing something.
Can somebody, just keep your phones and computer on mute if you can.
And not miss a clip and just keep going. You know what I mean? And so
thank you. That's great. So who's on the subgroup? Key dates for return to training and play, return to training protocols and replay protocols. So we'll take you through that and some useful links. And we'll have a bit of time for Q&A because I think there's bound to be questions you've got as a result of that. So let's get straight into that. So the subgroup, we meet once a week and we try and keep pace with all the changes that we're seeing and hearing from state government downwards. And so I kind of sort of facilitate that group, and Lucas as club coach is part of that. Taz Tudor, that many of you will know on the junior side, chairman of the junior committee. Paul McDermott, club stalwart, and Shane Yole, both sort of helping out with COVID support activity. And of course, Scott Ryoko as club president. So we meet weekly and we work through a plan to try and keep ahead of what's going on and try and make this as easy a transition as possible for the club by making this work for us. So as part of what we've done, communications is a key important part of what we do as a subgroup. We've actually just produced a recent video to help us communicate some of the aspects of the things we need to think about with COVID and what we need to think about when we return to training and play. So I might just play that video for a few minutes and it'll help sort of communicate some of our messages.
It's nearly time to get back into the game we all love, but this year things are a little different. The club is making itself COVID ready, and there are a few things for you to know about as we get ready to don those pads and shine the new cherry.
There are clear signs and instructions available for you at training and match day, one of which is a QR code. You or your parent will be able to scan this when you arrive to tell us that you were there, and then scan again to tell us when you were gone. It's really easy.
Make sure you're checking the track. Also remember when finding training, concentrate on the floor. Stay in the group and 1.5 meters apart. And no high fives, and definitely no hands.
Don't forget to play your part in following guidelines on cleaning shared equipment such as cones, brooms, balls, and shared kit when necessary. Remember to use hand sanitizer before, during, and after training and matches. If we all do our little bit, it's done.
We're all in this together, whether we're playing or watching. So let's help each other out. If you haven't already done so, please remember to register. Stay safe and follow the protocols. Go Irish.
It's different this year, but no less fun in getting back into cricket. Remember, we all have a community role as a member of Glen Iris Cricket Club. Any questions, just email us, we'll help you out. Our COVID plan, Q&As and guidelines will be made available very soon on our website. We're in this together. Go Iris.
Well, I hope you liked the video. I think some great work by some of the juniors and Taz Tudor putting that together, and thank you for the other participants. That's great. So I think what we want to kind of try and do as a subgroup is communicate to you and the club community in a meaningful way, and really kind of emphasize that, you know, this is about getting back to playing cricket in the way that we want to play it, and making these sort of rules and protocols as easy and as simple and understandable as we can, so we can all get back to playing cricket in the way that we want. We work in terms of our plan, which we're required to do by council and also Cricket Victoria, is work very much to the template provided to us by Cricket Victoria, which is their community cricket return to train and play. So that gives us a lot of guidelines and processes and protocols to observe. So we're working closely with this document, which really forms the Glen Iris Cricket Club COVID plan. And that's shortly going to be made available on a refreshed website, I believe, over the next sort of few days. So you can reference that. One thing I also want to just let you know that Cricket Victoria has a very good Q&A and facts section on their website. So if we're not covering a lot of detail here, you can get much more information in more detail from Cricket Victoria. So I think the purpose of tonight is really, like I said, to try and give you not too much information, not to overload you, but we want to give you the basics and the key things that we need to remember when returning to training and play in a kind of COVID environment. One of the other sort of key component parts of our COVID plan is, of course, the roadmap, which is built very much on the state government roadmap, and we take very much our lead and guide from this. So Cricket Victoria, who've been absolutely fantastic in clarifying and being very responsive to what the state government guidelines mean in terms of playing cricket. And so this sort of roadmap is exceptionally helpful. And we'll be pretty familiar, I think, with the roadmap being sort of more or less in step 2, no club training allowed at this stage. And we're hoping for sort of more guidelines this weekend.
Walking away.
But we're sort of looking to move from sort of step 2 to step 3, hopefully as soon as we can, with the 1st of November being kind of one of the key dates. And we'll go through this in a bit more detail. But I think it's really worth emphasizing that we are observing this roadmap. It's our guideline in terms of our protocols and how we communicate what happens next. And it's just incumbent, I think, a good positive message for the club as a whole, that we're all part of this. We're in this together, as the video said, and we need to make sure we help each other and make sure we're alert and alive to what we have to do to make returning to cricket a good and safe and fun thing. I think there are also some principles we really want to emphasize fairly frequently. And so things like, if you're 12 years and above, is wearing a face mask when on and off the field, physical distancing, regular hand hygiene, and of course, if you're not feeling well or you feel you've got symptoms, just don't go anywhere near cricket or training. And we'll talk about these in a little bit more detail right now. So the ECA, one of the associations we play under, have given us some recent key points and updates over the last sort of day or so. So I thought I'd just share these to give you some extra context from the association. But the senior turf and synthetic competition remains on track to start 14th of November 2020, and obviously working to the fixture dates they previously announced. And the junior competition will now commence on Friday the 13th of November.
Friday 13th.
2020, with 9 rounds scheduled, semi-finals 21st and finals 27th of March.
New year, I don't know.
The veterans competition will play a 5-round season, 6 team grades, and that will commence on the 29th of November, and semi-finals and finals on those dates. And fixtures for the turf competition should be released next week, and the synthetic competition the week after. So the fixtures should be coming out pretty soon. And I think a sort of good thing to remember from ECA, that they're continuing to work on finalising their own COVID-19 protocols, but they will be guided, as we are, by the Cricket Victoria return to play document that I just referred to. And also it will be advising on how the competition will deal with any positive test results and isolation issues. But of course, the DHSS will be driving process on that should that occur. All right, so summary of key dates for the club. Return to group training, Monday, the 2nd of November onwards. So again, to re-emphasize, no organised club training until then. But of course, in groups of 10 from 2 households, we are able to use facilities to do that under the right kind of protocols, but no organised club training until Monday, the 2nd of November. And return to play, as you've just heard, starting with juniors from Friday the 13th. Now, there is a little sort of sub-point here around council needs to approve, which they have done, return to play. They've approved our plan, which is excellent news. And we've got one small step to make on that with return of a checklist to say we're doing all the right things. But generally speaking, council are happy for us to return to training and play, which is great, and that's from Friday the 13th of November. Again, an emphasis on everybody's, I guess, commitment here to making this work collectively, and particularly from a player point of view. There are things that we kind of ask that players and participants remember and promise. And again, I make no apologies for re-emphasizing this because they're so important. It's about knowing the rules on wearing a face mask at all time, except when batting, bowling and fielding. And check in on arrival and check out for both training and playing. And I'll talk about that more in just a second. Of course, the process of washing hands and using available sanitizers regularly and keeping 1.5 meters from others. And the last point, again, around club responsibility, we're all in this, is encouraging others to follow those requirements if people are a little off or not sure. Just collective responsibility here, I think, is really important. Of course, don't attend any cricket activity if unwell. No sharing communal food or drinks, but bring your own or buy your own. Sharing personal equipment with others unless it's been cleaned before and after use. So sharing of equipment is fine, but obviously no spitting or sweating or putting saliva on the ball. So just some, again, repeating the basics that we need to remember, easy to forget. So I think repeating the basics is probably no bad thing. So I'll talk just briefly about a summary of return to training protocols, and I might get Lucas just to talk a bit about how senior training will work. So I'll hand over to Lucas in just a second, but I'll just run through this just again to make some points. Lucas will talk a bit about the role of team app invites and how senior training works. Again, wear the mask to and from training, very important. Check in, check out. So we'll provide a QR code at training locations and match locations. And it is a really easy way for everybody to make sure that their presence at training or playing is known and recorded. And the thing about a QR code is that anybody can do it on somebody else's behalf. So a parent can do this on behalf of a child. It's just making sure the details are entered and recorded. And it's just a really quick, simple, easy way to capture participant information should DHHS ask us for confirmation of who's been available at what event. So we do need to provide this. And so using a QR code is a prerequisite for training and playing.
Sorry, can I just jump in there?
Yeah, go.
If someone turns up and doesn't do the QR code, what does that mean?
Well, it means they won't be able to train or play. We won't have any record of them, but we can actually, as a backup, do a manual capture of that particular individual. So we just need to make sure we capture people's attendance.
So I guess the question is, how are we going to manage that?
Well, the QR code manage what?
Whether they've checked in or checked out.
Well, we need to make sure that at training, people supporting the COVID protocols are observing people checking in, checking out. We'll have clear entry and exit points to training and playing.
So is someone going to be standing there making sure they check in?
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
So we'll have to do it by observation.
That's all I was after, mate.
Yeah,
I understand like that. Yep.
But I think part of this sort of process is cascading what's so necessary that we collectively, have a view of that. But good question.
Thanks, mate.
All right. Do take note of ground signage. I'll show you what that looks like in a bit. So that'll help us with protocols and processes. And Lucas will talk to this, but there's guidelines around senior training on maximum groups per oval, but coaches can be additional and move between groups, but wearing masks. There will need to be cleaning activity here. So one of the must-dos around training as well as playing is cleaning equipment and cleaning areas that have been used, such as toilets, or we don't recommend this for training communal rooms, but we will need to instigate cleaning rosters, but obviously cleaning equipment will be provided. So again, it's part of the collective responsibility to make sure that we're fit and ready to start training and fit and ready to finish training from a cleaning point of view. We will need, and I'll say this a couple of times, part of the strong recommendation and requirement from the club, because we all need to do it, is as many people as possible to step up and be COVID safety managers. Now, this sounds a little more ominous than it actually is. All it really requires is a 20-minute online training, which the www.health.gov.au link is there. Just to make sure you're aware of the whole aspect of COVID safety. It's not onerous at all. Many of us have done it already, but it means that you're qualified and able to help out with observing COVID rules and processes at training and games. It's a really important point, because this whole COVID process and managing protocols in a way that doesn't interfere with our joy of training and playing is necessary to be spread out across as many people as you can. So we urge people involved in the game, playing, captains, team managers, senior players, junior players, please step up and nominate yourself as a COVID safety manager. It would be very, very helpful. Of course, sanitize regularly before, during and after training. And no, as we've said before, no sweat, saliva on the ball, no spitting, nasal clearing. So, and of course, if feeling unwell, don't attend. Goes without saying. So I might just hand over to Skelts or Lucas just to take us through how senior training might work and to give some comments of his own. So Lucas, you want to speak?
Yeah, thanks, Jim, and good evening to everyone. And I guess first off, I guess there's a whole lot of COVID protocols and things that we need to be across. However, I guess what is at the core of all this is playing a game that brings us a lot of joy and and keeps us all active and involved in the community. So, I think from a coaching and playing perspective, it definitely seems, and I think already we've seen some benefits or seen the ability for players of all ages to make the most of their training time and make the most of working within the restrictions. And we've seen some really great work done either on Zoom or down at the nets or in garages and lounge rooms. I've been really proud of the players all the way from, a couple of kids in the under 11s and 10s all the way through to some of our veterans who have participated in our online or COVID pre-season, if you like. And I think that set the scene for what is to come. Training for juniors and seniors will be very different. However, it does create opportunities, which I'm really excited about. I think there's some, really, really good opportunities for us to shake up our training approach a little bit and use the facilities that we do have, and maybe that we haven't done before. An example might be that we may need to spread our groups, or we will need to spread our players across more reserves. So rather than just all using the nets, we'll be using a centre wicket at Warner Reserve, and we might be using the nets at Eric Raven Reserve, and rotating, also using outfields, but also maybe saying to groups of or individuals and groups of players, maybe it's better or it works for you to DIY, then by all means go for it. If you want to click over there, Jim.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a bit of a graphic from Cricket Victoria about how we might set up some of our reserves in terms of training. So group in the nets, group in the outfield, and then they rotate around. Keep going, Jim. So what we have at the moment, and this is from a senior perspective, it looks like we're going to have 3 venues available to us. So Eric Raven, Warner Reserve and Lewin. We plan to train across 3 nights. Okay, so we're looking at there's around about 60 to 70 players that we know of that are going to play, and that includes some of our under 15s, 14s, 15s and 16s who will play some senior cricket too. So we're going to rotate, put our players into groups. So there'll be sort of team-based groups, groups of about 13 or 14. Obviously, we'll roll with the restrictions. If groups of 20 are allowed, then we'll roll with that. And then what we'll do is we'll invite the players to a training session, and we'll use Team App for that. And by virtue of that, we'll have a record of who's going to which session, and the players can accept and turn up. And if players don't accept, then we'll be able to offer those spots to players who might want to do more sessions. So the idea is that we rotate those sessions and groups across those venues. So for instance, the first 11 team might train at Eric Raven on Tuesday night and then might go over to Warner on Thursday night for centre wicket. So each team and each player will probably get an opportunity to do some net training, but also some centre wicket training, and some outfield stuff. So I do think it's going to give us some options that we haven't had before, which is exciting, and will help us. I guess the main message, I attended a webinar with Justin Langer a week or so ago, and his advice, COVID or no COVID, was keep the ball in play. And I think it's a really good message for all of our coaches and players is whatever we're doing, keep the ball moving, keep the bats and balls in people's hands, and play the game. So as much as we can, we're going to try and we are going to make our training really ensure that the ball stays in play, and that we'll probably make better use of our time as well. So rather than quality versus quantity, we really make sure that hour session is 150 balls a hit and thrown and bowled, so we can really make the most of these sessions. Obviously, the logistics of it all, we work within the protocols and work with that as they change. So if things need to change, we'll keep adapting and rolling with it. Jim, do you want to flick over again?
I think that's what I've got.
That's it.
Yep.
Okay.
Lucas, that's excellent. Thank you. So QR code, I won't overemphasize this. This is a version from Fitzroy, but we'll be creating our own. So again, we just want to make this really straightforward and easy for people to participate in and use. Okay, so look out for signage and sanitizers. We'll be providing signage at the grounds, both for training and play. So it's a very useful additional reference point for you to look at if you're not sure of what to do at what point. And also perhaps for the juniors in particular, for parents to sort of reinforce some of the protocols and guidelines with the young players. So we're providing all of that, and we'll provide hand sanitizers for both training and play as well, and plus, of course, cleaning equipment. So that'll be there and very visible. And again, relevant to the question earlier, we'll be making sure through observation that the QR code is used and people understand it and are happy. All right, so return to play protocols very briefly. Again, mask to and from the game, really important. QR code plays a role here at the game as well as training. And again, like training, we'll be having or needing to have equipment and room, toilets, cleaning, rotors and processes. So again, many hands make light work on that. And sanitize regularly before, during and after play. Also, some specific guidelines here from Cricket Victoria around protocols. At every 10 overs, players and umpires sanitize their hands and the ball gets sanitized every 10 overs. But the ball is only handled by the players, so we're not going to throw the ball back to the umpire between overs. That remains in the players' hands. If that doesn't occur, then obviously we need to usually sanitize the ball. We need to wear a mask when we're not fielding, bowling or batting. So if you're waiting to bat, you've got to wear that lovely mask. And again, same as training, no saliva or sweat on the ball, no spitting. And of course, if you don't feel unwell, do not attend. And again, like training, we just need as many COVID safety managers as possible. And I think it'd be good to think about for each kind of playing group or each team to have at least 1 or 2 or 3 safety managers available per group because of availability and team selection. We just need support on the ground when we play cricket to make sure the basics are up and ready and done. And having people who are prepared to do that is so important for the club to have access to that. All right, so some useful links. As I said at the beginning, any sort of questions or queries or concerns, there's an email that you can use to communicate back into the club. Of course, the website is being updated, and all or a lot of sort of COVID important information like plans and Q&A will be made available on that website. And like I said, Cricket Victoria has some excellent resources that you can look at and study. But what we try to do today is give you the core basics. So I think what I might do is allow you to think about that. And if there's any questions you might want to ask me or Lucas or the club, we can have a chat about that now if anybody's got any questions.
Hey Jim, Phil Mather here.
Hey Phil, how are you?
Good mate, just a bit stir crazy, cabin fever as you know. The issue of rubbing the ball down with alcohol wipes obviously might affect the ability of the ball to recover or maybe make it work better. Is it allowed to, I'm assuming it's allowed to rub on the pants rather than directly applying sweat and saliva, obviously. Is there any feedback from the cricket authorities about that process?
My understanding is you're allowed to rub it on your clothes. There's no sweat or spit allowed on the ball.
Directly applying, I guess you might have a bit of incidental sweat, given it is a summer game. But hey,
well, that's right. But I mean, I think if there's any doubt or concern, sanitize the ball. And I think this is just about really understanding the spirit of the guidelines and doing the right thing. And if there's a sense that maybe that's been unintentionally breached, we just do the right thing and sanitize. So I think if in doubt, don't do it. But my understanding is that shining the ball on your pants is okay.
Sorry, the secondary question, if it's okay. As the king of the cones at in what was the old Lock 5, I'm assuming, of course, that we're talking about 50 cones in some cases. You're going to have to clean them all, hopefully not. And there'll probably be a similar question around some of the other equipment. It's going to be quite challenging to clean it every session. Is there any idea about how that can be done in a different way? Well,
it may be, good question, Phil. It may be that we have to sort of isolate the minimum number of cones that we need and make sure they're the ones that are used and no others. But they will need to, if they're handled, they'll need to be cleaned.
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking about maybe, I guess alcoholic wipes are a fairly manual, heavy sort of labor or sort of high labor sort of exercise. Maybe dunking them in some solution or something might be an easier way to do it. But I guess this might be. Yeah,
I mean, they need to be cleaned. I haven't got the spec right here, but they need to be cleaned with appropriate sanitizer.
Oh, okay. So a 70% alcohol
germ killing
solution.
Cleaning solution. Yeah. So as long as it meets that criteria, then I think probably. I'm no expert, but a dipping may be right, but it needs to be cleaned, not just dipped, I would suggest.
Okay, thanks for that.
All right, pleasure.
Jim, I've got a question.
Yep.
So I guess I would be deemed to be a spectator.
Yes.
So in terms of any protocols for that, or what would I need to be looking out for?
Yeah, good question, Phil. So spectators allowed, but in no more than groups of 10. And obviously you need to stay 1.5 meters apart from one another and wear masks. And I think initially, early on this process, we were unsure whether spectators were in fact ever going to be allowed.
Yeah.
Victoria have, I think, successfully negotiated with the state government to allow spectators. So that's my understanding. And
spectators will need to check in too, Jim. They just can't turn up. They'll need to check in via QR code as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Paul. Good point. Excellent. Yep.
Thanks, mate.
Yep.
One other thing, Jim. Sorry, Phil again. Obviously, drinks protocols are going to be quite different. Presumably everyone's bringing their own drinks, and obviously given the hot weather can be an issue. Because you're going to then have to have people running off to get their drink and coming back rather than having it all brought out to you type of thing. So presumably the club and the comp have worked some sort of arrangement with that.
Well, I think the rules are that there is no shared food or shared drink, so you have to bring your own food and your own drink. So when you take a drinks break, depending on the heat of the day, will obviously need to be discussed with captains and so on. But yeah, so it is bring your own food and bring your own drink.
That's the underlying basic premise, and we'll work out how we do it as we go, I guess.
That's right. That's quite right.
All right, thanks.
Bring your own esky, Phil.
11 eskies per game, yes.
There'll be 11, no, there'll actually be 22 eskies per game if it's hot, yep.
No, I'm assuming, obviously, things like the canteen and obviously after game drinks are not going to be a regular for a while.
No. For the moment, not. We're just waiting to see what the guidelines are and what the protocols are for canteen. But in the short term, no.
Yeah, fair enough. Thanks.
Yep.
Phil, we're looking at holding our, from a senior perspective, we're looking at holding our match reports, and Lucas and his team are working on how selection will unfold on a Thursday night, but match reports will be something similar to this on a Saturday night, most likely. We're in discussions with the Malvern Vale, assuming that they're allowed to open by the time we start training, to book a number of tables. So on a Thursday night, yes, the club will be closed, but we can go down to the Malvern Vale and support our club sponsor and still get together in whatever capacity the rules allow at that venue. But most likely the match reports will be a bit different, but you'll be sitting at home with a beverage after making another 50.
Yes, well, thanks for that.
Of course you will, Phil. Yeah.
Jim, Darren again, mate.
Hi, Darren.
At the start of the presentation, you talked about when the schedules are going to be published, which is next week and the week after, for the seniors and the turf and the hard wicket competitions.
Yeah. When's
the juniors happening? Because we're going to start pretty quickly.
Yeah. So Taz asked me, which I should have done. Thank you for bringing it up. The junior teams and the training night schedule will be sent out next week. Next week.
What about from the association about the schedule?
That I don't know. I don't know whether Scott can comment on that, but I would have thought pretty much to the same schedule as what the ECA have said for seniors. Scott, have you got any addition to that?
I believe that it's actually pretty much done.
Right.
Just waiting on confirmed dates from Sunday's announcement.
Okay.
So Harry, I'd expect that to come out next week.
Yeah, that's cool.
Is everyone aware from a junior perspective that there'll be a large proportion of one-day games? So the games that we play on a Friday or a Saturday morning or a Sunday, depending on what grade you're playing or what age group, they will be one-day games. So that means I think 20-ish overs each. The ECA have bucked the Cricket Victoria recommendation. And I think at under 14s and 12s and 16A level, there will be some two-day fixtures. I'm not sure of how many. I think it's been reduced by one with the latest start. But they have gone against Cricket Victoria's recommendation, and there will be some two-day cricket amongst the fixtures.
Yep.
Which some people may like.
Yep. It's all right.
Yeah.
Lucas, are you still there, mate?
Yes.
In your presentation, mate, you had up training on Wednesday, Thursdays and Fridays, I believe. And then you commented that the seniors might train Tuesdays and Thursdays. So is it Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays, or is it Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday?
It should be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. But I guess we'll be as flexible and agile as we can. And if we need to shift those dates to fit everyone in, but at this stage, we're planning on the 3 nights: Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
That's cool, mate. That's all right. Thanks.
Yeah. And that also, we're working with the juniors too to make sure we've lined up all the age groups and all the teams and make that work.
I'm sure you've covered that off, mate. Thanks.
Just a comment to the group. I think one of the biggest challenges we're going to have is the COVID manager scenario. Each side, whether it be senior or junior, or even down to blasters, are going to need a COVID manager on site. And we all know that, for whatever reason, players miss games, both at junior and senior level. So what we're suggesting and recommending is that each side has a couple of COVID managers, because you can't guarantee that everyone's going to be there every week. It can't be the coach and it can't be the team manager. So, in a side of 11 or 12, all of a sudden we need at least 3 officials in the team, as well as a scorer. So it really is, when you think about it, it really is going to be hands on deck this year. For the junior parents, it's less of a drop-off, and we'll see you later in a couple of hours. This is more like footy season this year, whereby there's a lot of tasks that need to get done. So we've done goal umpiring before, or boundary umpiring, or first aiding. For cricket, we need you to step up this season, and we need a number of parents on deck at each game. I think one of the things that Cricket Victoria have said is that, cricket is a privilege in a pandemic. So I know there's a lot of questions and it's not perfect, but it is a privilege to be playing. If we were running basketball, we wouldn't be so lucky being an indoor sport. So we are going to need a lot of volunteers. So once the sides are sort of announced next week, I'm sure that the age group coordinators and the named coaches will be in contact, and the same for senior captains. We really need to get our ducks in a row in regards to these volunteer positions. We are planning on having a volunteer roster around training nights. So we'll that'll be a online sheet of some sort where people can put their name in and take a slot here or there. So it really is going to be a whole of community or whole of village sort of effort this summer.
Scotty, I was thinking, it's Kirsty. Hi, I was thinking that the team managers of each of the junior teams would organise a roster for each week, and a COVID manager. So every parent needs to actually do that certificate, which is not onerous.
Yeah, and that will mean that parent will need to be at the game for every ball bowled.
Well, they'll have to be at the game and they'll have to be at training. That's just what you do if your son wants to play cricket. That's the way it is this time. We're talking about 9 weeks. It's not massive.
True. Yeah, true.
And I'm sure, people would step in anyway, if that's the case. So that's what I would have thought, sort of, that we make the edict to the team managers to do a roster system, and all the parents have to do it. It's not onerous, that certificate.
No, that's right. It's 20 minutes, pretty straightforward, and it's quick. I think the important issue in addition to that is just, as you say, is people making themselves available and stepping up. And I think having rosters through the team parenting, I think that's great.
Yeah, I think that's probably the way to go.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jim, one more thing that struck me. It's Phil Mather here. Scoring is going to be particularly challenging in this environment. Things like bringing your own pen, I'm assuming, is going to be a requirement, because you don't want to be sharing pens and having a communal pen, and also wiping down scorebooks. I mean, is there anything technology-wise that may be able to assist with that?
I can answer that for you, Phil. The club is making a decision shortly on whether we're going to mandate electronic scoring.
Okay.
Scorers do. One of the great things about playing cricket, I found, was sitting next to the opposition player and scoring, but that definitely won't be happening this season. Scorers have to sit on separate tables and have to be 1.5 meters apart. But we are, and you're right, you would have to use your own pen. But we are looking at whether we mandate electronic scoring, which means that an iPad or an iPhone would need to be sanitised if it was shared amongst teammates.
Yeah. 6 of one, half a dozen the other. I guess something's got to be cleaned.
That's right. Yeah. Cleaning is the common denominator across those things.
Oh, thank Christ I'm good at it, eh?
Very good.
So one thing we haven't mentioned is the club has engaged a professional cleaner, and our most used ground, Eric Raven, from a training and game perspective, will be cleaned commercially every Saturday morning throughout the season.
Yeah, that's good. All right. Any other questions from anybody? We're aware we kind of shared quite a lot of information, probably a lot to absorb, but I hope the key messages are clear. Any other questions from anybody? All right. Well, I think, like I said, we'll be doing this again. Information will go up onto the new website in due course. I think we're, as a subgroup and as a club, just really keen that we keep the communications flowing, and this sort of Q&A dialogue, I think it's really important, some really good questions coming back, and that's a really good process. So I think we want to keep this going, and we'll be in good shape, I'm pretty sure, because of good culture at the club to make this work. And as Scott said, you know, playing and training in a pandemic is a privilege, not a right. So collectively we can make that work, I'm convinced. So we'll keep communicating with you. Please keep asking us questions, and that way we'll get to a great result. All right, so thank you very much, everybody. We'll keep you updated with information as we get it.
Great job, Jim. Lucas.
Good, Jim.
Nice Thanks a lot, Lucas.
Well done.
Thanks, Lucas.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Jim.
Well done, Jim.
Cheers.
Night all.
Night all.